In your headlines tonight, new path to sustained peace. President Maithripala Sirisena signs Office of Missing Persons Gazette.
First at 9. This is Other Derana 24/7.
Foreign Minister dismisses UN Rapporteur. Ravi Karnanayake says Ben Emerson made irrelevant statements during Sri Lanka visit. New Constitution. JNP pleads Speaker Karu Jayasuriya to announce the Constitutional Assembly is no more. Cocaine haul suspects nabbed. Police arrest 7 over 3.2 billion rupee cocaine stash. Making headlines in news overseas, Trump circus, US President's eldest son, son-in-law and ex-campaign manager to testify before Senate on alleged Russian meddling in 2016 election. Good evening, this is your primetime news. First at 9 tonight, we take a look at your top stories making headlines here at home. President Maithripala Sirisena signed the Office of Missing Persons Gazette today, establishing the long-awaited setting up of the office, which is now brought under the Ministry of National Integration and Reconciliation. Sri Lanka had been under pressure to set up the Office of Missing Persons as part of its commitment to the UN Human Rights Council.
The Parliament unanimously approved the bill last year entitled Office on Missing Persons, Establishment, Administration and Discharge of Functions. The office is to provide appropriate mechanisms for searching and tracing of missing persons and to clarify the circumstances in which such persons went missing and their fate. In addition, it will make recommendations to the relevant authorities towards reducing the incidence of missing persons within the meaning of this Act. Furthermore, it will protect the rights and interests of missing persons and their relatives as provided for in this Act. The Office of Missing is also entrusted with identifying proper avenues of redress to which such missing persons or their relatives may have recourse. The Constitutional Council is now expected to nominate 7 members who will guide the Office of Missing Persons. In a tweet, President Maithripala Sirisena said, signing of the Gazette marks another step forward in Sri Lanka's path to sustain peace.
And Minister of Foreign Affairs Ravi Karnanayake says the majority of statements made by UN Special Rapporteur Ben Emerson are irrelevant. Addressing a media briefing held at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs today, he also said that the new bill pertaining to reparations will be tabled in Parliament within the next few months. The Reparations Bill seeks to restore injury and security losses during the conflict. It is part of the commitment Sri Lanka made by co-sponsoring UN Human Rights Council Resolution 30/1, in which the government committed to set out an agenda promising truth, justice, reparation and non-recurrence to victims of human rights violations and other crimes under international law.
People in Sri Lanka think that we have sold the country and done everything. People outside think that we have done nothing, when there's a lot of things that have been done. What are the things that we have done? Now the transitional justice has 4 mechanisms. And in the mechanism process, the Office of the Missing Person. Now this doesn't look at only during the period that had a civil disobedience. It also had during the Sinhala insurrections in 71. Nobody talks of that. So on that basis, the Office of Missing Person was put into existence today by the President signing that document today. And on that basis, it will go through the normal process of having Constitutional Council, nominating people, and then the President will decide from that as to who the chairman should be. Truth and reconciliation, areas of reparation, all those matters are being addressed. And at this moment, the collective acceptance of many are being looked at before bringing it into Parliament.
Minister Ravi Karnanayake also responded to queries made by journalists on reparation initiatives of the government.
Reparation, you will have a new bill that is coming into Parliament. The money was allocated before I came, but it needs a mechanism, and that is through a bill that will be introduced to Parliament, maybe in the next 2 to 3, 4 months.
There was some really critical comment by this Ben Emerson on reconciliation and the implementation of the UN resolutions?
Well, all I could basically say is that there are some relevant statements and majority are irrelevant statements. What are irrelevant has been addressed, especially to a wonderful gentleman, Mr. Feldman, who came along, who understands situations. And I understand that they will take necessary corrective actions wherever they feel that is wrong, because majority of them are wrong. Because these are only rapporteurs that come and give. They are not part of the UN. They are only rapporteurs that come to give observations on certain matters.
The minister went on to elaborate on the proposed free trade agreement between Sri Lanka and Singapore.
The advantage of us is that we'll be trading with a country that has access to many countries at their disposal. So while they come into Sri Lanka and have access to certain limited countries, we have access to many countries. And the system that we want to adopt is because of the fact that out of 8,600 HS codes, almost 7,000 have been freed up. There are certain areas that have to be protected. So those will be looked at from Sri Lankan's economic point of view and the industrial point of view, but the rest will be opened up. Because today, digitalization of the economy is such that you can order directly into USA or into Japan and come in here and lose the official basis of trading. So on that score, having open trade is the best way forward. For example, Bangladesh wants to have it before end of the year. And it is nonsensical not to have anything going on there because the BIMSTEC, which is a regional grouping, has in any case got the benefits given there. So I think within the next 2 rounds it will be concluded and we'll have a very, very forceful, very proactive free trade agreement with Singapore.
An Australian Foreign Affairs Minister, Julie Bishop, who is currently engaged in a 2-day official visit in Sri Lanka, called on President Maithripala Sirisena today. During the meeting with the President, Bishop pledged Australia's support in eradicating dengue fever and discussed progress in the front of reconciliation.
President Maithripala Sirisena expressed his gratitude to the government of Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull and the people of Australia for providing assistance at a critical time. The President added that several agreements and MOUs were arrived at during his visit to Australia and noted that the 2 countries should implement them expeditiously to ensure benefits to the people. The presidential media also reported that the 2 parties had discussed the progress on the implementation of the reconciliation process.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you.
Early in the day, Julie Bishop also met with Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe at Temple Trees this morning. Bilateral talks were held between the 2 parties with the presence of Minister of Law and Order and Southern Development Sagla Ratnayaka.
The Galgamuwa Base Hospital complex was reopened today under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena and the Deputy Head of the Japanese Embassy in Sri Lanka, Koji Yagi. The base hospital was refurbished under a Japan-funded project titled Improvement of Basic Social Services, targeting emerging regions.
President Maithripala Sirisena unveiled the refurbished base hospital in Galgamuwa, which is part of a Japanese project of over 5.2 billion rupees to improve 4 secondary hospitals in Sri Lanka.
The government made a lot of decisions to make the free health service stronger. This government gave the right meaning to the phrase free health by providing all health-related services free of charge.
Meanwhile, a grant contract was signed between the Government of Japan and the Mine Advisory Group to the tune of approximately 91 million rupees this morning at the Embassy of Japan in Colombo towards humanitarian demining in northern Sri Lanka. The contract was signed between the Ambassador of Japan, Kenichi Sugunama, and the Technical Operations Manager of the Mines Advisory Group, Ronan Tony Fernandez. Since 2003, Japan has provided approximately $30.1 million for demining activities in the north and east under its grant assistance for grassroots human project.
In Sri Lanka, MAG has made significant contributions toward mine action clearance efforts. Since 2009, MAG has released over 48 square kilometers of land, and we have removed and destroyed more than 55,000 dangerous explosive remnants of war items, including nearly 40,000 landmines. In the last 3 years alone, the partnership between MAG Sri Lanka and the people of Japan has enabled the release of more than 11 million square meters of land back to communities.
All this work is being done to enable people to go back to where they originally lived, to enable the redevelopment of the conflict-affected area.
And the much debated topic of the introduction of a new constitution for Sri Lanka continues to draw opinion from across the country. Various politicians expressed their views on the hot topic today too.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has started the formation of the constitution under the influence of foreign forces. The most important thing is the chief incumbents issued an order saying a new constitution or reforms are not required. Parliament is considered the Constitutional Assembly. When 5 parliamentarians leave the Constitutional Assembly following written notice, it cannot be called a Constitutional Assembly anymore. The Speaker should inform the new situation to the Parliament. We condemn joint opposition being in the Constitutional Assembly. They were in certain subcommittees so far, yet when the recommendations of the subcommittees were issued, none of their recommendations were there. They don't even discuss the prominence of Buddhism and the unitary status of the country, because they have become fixed facts. Therefore, we actively participate in forming a constitution which includes these facts.
People were arrested today over the haul of cocaine found at the economic centre in Ratmalana yesterday. Police stated that the total cost of the haul of cocaine is more than 3.2 billion rupees.
198 packets of cocaine weighing 218 kilograms was discovered last evening. The police stated that the stash was concealed in a container of sugar which was imported from Brazil, and it was brought to the economic centre in Ratmalana yesterday. A private company has imported the container of sugar and it was planned to be distributed in Satasa branches in Kurunagala. Employees of Satasa found 10 bags among the sacks of sugar in the container and alerted police to their discovery. The police confirmed that there were 16 packets in one of the bags.
ඉතුරු ගමන්මලු 9 මුද්‍රා තබලයි තිබුණේ පොලිසිය එම මුද්‍රා විවෘත කර.
The rest of the bags were sealed. There were 9 bags and one of them had 20 packets. We also found 2 packets in the possession of 2 workers at the economic centre.
සොයා ගැනීමට හැකියාව ලැබුණා.
Meanwhile, convening a media briefing today, Satasa chairman TMKB Tennakoon expressed his views on the matter.
සාමාන්‍ය රේගුව ඔරුගොඩ වත්තේදී පරීක්ෂා කරලා බලලා තමයි සීල් එක මුද්‍රාව තබන්නේ.
Usually items are sealed by the customs in Orgodavatta. We made the discovery and not the police. It wasn't the employees of Satasa who unloaded the container. It was done by manpower companies. We will blacklist whoever found guilty following police investigations.
The South Asian Institute of Technology and Medicine states that Dr. Neville Fernando will settle all outstanding loans of the Neville Fernando Teaching Hospital, which is taken over by the government. The Dr. Neville Fernando Teaching Hospital, valued at 3.55 billion rupees, was handed over to the government on Monday.
Issuing a communique, the South Asian Institute of Technology and Medicine stated that until all loans are repaid by Citum within the next 10 years, the mortgage rights of the hospital will remain with the Bank of Ceylon. The statement goes on to say that government has not made any form of payment to Citum as compensation or lease under any agreement. Meanwhile, the chairman of Citum, secretary to the Minister of Health and general manager of Bank of Ceylon will sign a tri-party agreement on the formal handover of Dr. Neville Fernando Teaching Hospital, which will function as a government hospital offering free healthcare effective from the 1st of August. Meanwhile, the Government Medical Officers Association also expressed their views regarding the current developments on the issue regarding Citum.
At the moment, we are having discussions with the Honourable Prime Minister. We feel that they are very productive discussions. His Excellency the President making the same attempt few weeks ago trying to solve this issue. The latest development in this whole saga, we saw yesterday that a separate union was formed at the Foundation Institute yesterday afternoon. This was under the patronage of the present Health Minister. And we categorically say that the Government Medical Officers Association cannot be destroyed or weakened by any politician or any other organization.
Meanwhile, convening a media briefing, Janata Vimukta Peramuna also expressed their views on the matter.
We should bring this to a national level trade union action. Executive committees of trade unions have already begun discussions. The good governance regime is like a deaf elephant. We will make them listen after the 25th of this month.
Meanwhile, a tense situation arose when the police tried to arrest medical faculty student committee convener Ryan Jalat. Jalat arrived in the GMOA premises to participate in the media briefing. A team of police tried to arrest him as he was leaving the premises.
And now we take a look at other stories making news across Sri Lanka.
The Supreme Court today extended the order prohibiting Colombo Municipal Council from disposing garbage at Muthurajavala Sanctuary till the 25th of July. On the 5th of July, the court issued an injunction order prohibiting Colombo Municipal Council from disposing garbage in Muthurajavala till today. 4 locals in Suryavava who engaged in a fast unto death campaign are hospitalized. The locals launched the protest the day before yesterday, requesting compensation for their land taken over by the government to widen the 100-feet road in Hambantota. Meanwhile, they also hoisted black flags in the locality of the protest as well as in the town of Suryavava. The Colombo Chief Magistrates Court today imposed a 2,000 rupee fine on former Deputy Minister Sarna Gunawardena for the failure to declare assets during his 2-year tenure as the chairman of the National Lotteries Board. The court also ordered that the accused will be sentenced to 6 months in prison in case the Deputy Minister fails to pay the fine. The Bribery Commission filed a case against Gunawardena for failing to declare his assets. The former Deputy Minister pleaded guilty to the charges. The National Water Supply and Drainage Board announced a 19-hour water cut from 11 p.m. tomorrow to 6 p.m. on Saturday in several areas of Colombo. The Water Board said that the supply to Kotahena, Mattakkuliya, Grand Pass, Totalanga, Jayantha Veerasekara Mawatha and Maligatha flats will be suspended during the said time period. Urgent repairs being carried out on the main supply line is cited as the cause of the interruption to the water supply. Meanwhile, an 8-hour water cut is in effect from 9 p.m. today to 5 a.m. tomorrow in several areas including Dehiwala, Mount Lavinia, Nugegoda and parts of Colombo South.
In your business news tonight, State Minister of Finance Iran Wickramaratne says government intends to use information technology in order to improve the revenue of government. He said this addressing the launch of the online platform geared towards custom payments via the internet with the collaboration of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka.
Through the online platform, customer payments to Sri Lanka Customs can be made through any licensed commercial bank, eliminating delays. It reduces the physical usage of cash, supporting a cashless society.
The platform also provides a boost to economic activity in the country through reduced transaction costs. This is something that goes right through the system. By reducing transaction costs, both importers and exporters will gain a competitive advantage. Clearly important at a time when the country is trying to boost its exports. I think that's the key challenge for the country, and this is an important step in the right direction to create the enabling environment for us to transform our export performance.
According to the State Minister of Finance, Iran Wickramaratne, 43 million transactions have been done in the last year, valued at Rs 1.7 trillion on slips and 244 billion rupees from ATMs.
43 million transactions have been done in the last year, the value of Rs 1.7 trillion. That's on slips. And on the ATM, you have 244 billion rupees of transactions that have been done.
The free trade agreement between Sri Lanka and Singapore will be penned in the near future to expand trade and investment between the two countries. Foreign Minister of Singapore, Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan, announced the plans during an event organised by the Red Cross Sri Lanka today, stressing the importance of the relationship between Sri Lanka and Singapore as economic hubs in the region.
In a sense, both of us are hubs, especially transshipment hubs. Sri Lanka in the Indian Ocean, Singapore in Southeast Asia. Our economies are complementary rather than competitive. So the more we can expand the pipeline, the bandwidth that connects Sri Lanka to Singapore, the better we will be able to perform our respective roles in our regions.
A MOU between Sri Lanka and Singapore Red Cross to assist disaster victims from the recent flood was signed at the headquarters of Sri Lanka Red Cross today, witnessed by the Foreign Minister of Singapore and the President of Sri Lanka Red Cross Jagat Abesinghe. Singapore donated a sum of $100,000 to assist in flood relief efforts and for the development of disaster preparedness in the island.
I think there's a long history of a good relationship between the two countries and two people. People in Singapore also have close links with people in Sri Lanka. Many of them have relatives in Sri Lanka. So it is natural that when something happens in Sri Lanka, the news filters into Singapore very quickly and the people respond.
And the head of delegation of the European Union in Sri Lanka and the Maldives, Ambassador Tunglai Mag, says that if Sri Lanka is to reap benefits of the GSP Plus concession, government needs to finalize decisions set out in its policy framework and implement export and FTA strategies in order to improve investment climate. He made these comments at an investment forum held in Colombo yesterday.
Sri Lanka has experienced increases in duties and levies that had made the cost of imports exorbitant in certain sectors. Experts have therefore concluded that duties and taxes needed to be looked at and rationalized. In the recently gazetted New Inland Revenue Act, if it's passed without any major modification, it is expected to introduce a simplified tax system that will support fiscal consolidation, make the tax system more efficient and equitable, and generate resources for social and development programs. With some recovery now taking place in the world economy, we believe that a good policy framework is now needed to improve the ease of doing business in Sri Lanka, which in turn will attract new FDI, which includes an incentive package, transparent customs clearance procedures, long-term visas for investors, transparent tender procedures combined with measures to fight corruption, and streamlining of procedures to establish and run a business would make Sri Lanka an even more interesting location for investment. I know that work has started, but it needs to be finalized and decisions need to be implemented. If Sri Lanka is to maximize the use of GSP+, to stimulate the FTAs it currently has in place, and if it rapidly concludes those planned with other countries such as China and Singapore, it will have to couple all these advantages with a consistent national export strategy and a connected FDA strategy.
Meanwhile, Minister of Development Strategies and International Trade Malik Samar Wickrama touched on the importance of encouraging exports in the country.
Our dependence on two major markets, the European Union and USA, and the limited export basket of products makes Sri Lanka extremely vulnerable. Small and medium enterprises need to be encouraged to work more effectively and be part of the value chain of larger companies. The government of Sri Lanka is also aware of the possible trade disruption that can occur during the transition period. And therefore, we are looking at providing a trade adjustment package for local industries.
And we take a look at how the Colombo Equities performed today. We have Fernando from the Colombo Stock Exchange.
Top 5 gainers of the day were Central Investments and Finance, Southern Motors, Anilana Hotels, Asia Capital and Renuka Foods, while the top 5 losers were SNB Leasing, non-voting, Blue Diamonds, non-voting, Lake House Printers, Serendip Engineering and Radiant Gems.
National selectors named a 14-member squad to represent Sri Lanka Cricket President's 11 against India in the two-day warm-up match at the CC grounds starting tomorrow. Lahiru Thirimanne is named captain of the side, which comprises 8 batsmen, 4 fast bowlers and 2 spinners. Thirimanne last played for Sri Lanka during the England Tests in June 2016. Young Sandun Virakodi is set to keep wickets with Danushka Gunatilaka and Kaushal Silva opening the batting. 31-year-old Kaushal Silva was axed from the Lankan Test unit after the South African series, where he scored only 117 runs in 6 innings. Dhananjay De Silva, who top scored against Australia last year, has also been named. In your news overseas, US President Donald Trump's eldest son, son-in-law and ex-campaign manager are to testify before the Senate on alleged Russian meddling in the election of year 2016. The hearings will be the most high-profile since sacked FBI head James Comey gave testimony in June.
Donald Trump's eldest son, Donald Trump Jr., and Trump's former campaigning manager, Paul Manafort, have been called to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee next Wednesday. 2 days earlier, Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is to answer questions in a closed-door session of the Senate Intelligence Committee. The 3 members of Trump's inner circle attended a meeting in New York in June last year with Russian lawyer Natalia Velenitskaya after being promised damaging material on Trump's election rival Hillary Clinton.
The highly anticipated hearings next week will see some...
Brexit negotiations are set to outline what progress has been made so far as the latest round of talks come to an end. The UK's Brexit Secretary David Davis and the European Union's Michel Barnier will meet to assess the past 4 days of talks within the next few days.
UK's Brexit Secretary David Davis and the European Union's Michel Barnier are meeting for 4 days each month. About a month after their first meeting, the two intend to push forward with a detailed plan that could minimise economic and social damage to Britain and the EU after Brexit. Negotiators will focus on key issues concerning Britain's withdrawal, including citizens' rights, Britain's exit bill and the border in Northern Ireland. The European Union had demanded that Britain pay €60 billion as an exit fee. EU also said talks won't move on to the subject of future trading until it judges there has been adequate progress during discussions. A very good evening and welcome to the Weather Centre. Now, varying temperatures could be experienced across the island from 21 to 36 degrees Celsius. Now, it could be a bit windy in the Ampara, Monaragal and Hambantota districts with wind speeds reaching up to 50 kilometers per hour.
And that's all on your primetime news tonight. But before we go, we like to leave you with visuals from Chile's Atacama Desert, where it has become a sea of wildflowers this July as tourists from all over admire the magnificent bloom that covers a normally brown topography with an array of colors. Leave you with these visuals. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.